The wind sliced through Isaac Edwards like a blade as he watched his 7-year-old daughter Emma shiver, despite the 3 layers he had bundled her in that morning. And in that moment, he understood exactly what desperation tasted like. "Dad, my hands are cold," Emma whispered, tucking her small fingers deeper into the pockets of her second-hand winter coat. The zipper had broken 2 weeks ago, and Isaac had been meaning to replace it, but replacing things cost money he did not have. Isaac crouched down to her level at the bus stop, the concrete cold even through his worn jeans. "Here, baby girl, put your hands in mine." He wrapped his larger hands around her smaller ones, trying to transfer whatever warmth he had left in his body. His own hands were covered in thick work gloves, the kind construction workers wore, and they were probably the most expensive thing he owned right now. The digital display at the bus stop said it was 19 degrees Fahrenheit. The morning commute into the city always felt colder somehow, like the universe wanted to remind him of every choice that had led him here. Single father, construction worker, barely making rent each month. But when he looked at Emma's face, her nose red from the cold but her eyes bright with trust, he knew he would do it all over again. "The bus will be here soon," he promised, checking his phone. 6:45 in the morning. He had to drop Emma at the early morning program at her school before his shift started at 7:30. Being late was not an option. He had already been written up twice this month for various minor infractions, and his foreman was looking for any excuse to let him go. That was when he noticed the woman. She stood about 10 feet away from them, separate from the small cluster of morning commuters. She wore what looked like an expensive coat, the kind Isaac had only seen in store windows he would never walk into, but she was shaking. Her hands were bare, pale, and trembling as she tried to pull her coat tighter around herself. Her breath came out in visible puffs, and she kept looking down the street as if willing the bus to appear through sheer force of will. Isaac frowned. Something was off. Everything about her screamed money, from her leather boots to the designer purse slung over her shoulder, but she looked lost, vulnerable. And she clearly had not dressed for this weather, despite the forecast that had been predicting this cold snap for days. "Dad, that lady looks really cold," Emma said, following his gaze. Isaac nodded slowly. He should mind his own business. He had enough problems without getting involved in someone else's situation. But his mother had raised him better than that, even if she was not around anymore to remind him. And Emma was watching. "Stay right here, sweetheart," he said, making sure Emma was standing in a sheltered spot near the bus stop enclosure. Then he walked over to the woman. Up close, he could see she was probably in her early 30s, around his own age. She had the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers, with high cheekbones and full lips that were currently turning an alarming shade of blue. Her dark hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail, and her eyes were an unusual shade of green, like sea glass. "Excuse me, miss," Isaac said, and his voice came out rougher than he intended. He cleared his throat. "You look like you might need these more than I do." He pulled off his work gloves before he could second-guess himself. The woman looked up at him, startled. Her eyes were wide, and there was something in them that Isaac could not quite identify. Fear, confusion, but then her expression softened as she realized what he was offering. "Oh, I could not," she said, and even her voice sounded expensive somehow, cultured and smooth. "Those are yours." "I have another pair," Isaac lied smoothly. He did not. These were his only winter gloves. "Please, your hands look like they are about to fall off." She hesitated, and he could see her pride warring with her common sense. The cold one. She reached out and took the gloves, her fingers brushing against his for just a moment. Even in that brief contact, he could feel how frozen she was. "Thank you," she said, and there was genuine emotion in her voice. This is incredibly kind of you." "It is no problem," Isaac said, shoving his now bare hands into his jacket pockets. "The bus should be here soon." He turned to go back to Emma, but the woman spoke again. "Wait, please, what is your name?" Isaac glanced back over his shoulder. Isaac Edwards." Isaac, she repeated like she was memorizing it. I am Beatrice Cameron. He nodded, filed the name away, and returned to his daughter. Emma was smiling at him in that way that made his chest tight, proud, and warm. That was nice, Dad, she said. Just being a decent human, kiddo, he replied, trying to rub some warmth back into his hands without being too obvious about it. The bus arrived 3 minutes later, hissing to a stop in front of them. Isaac ushered Emma up the steps first, then followed, fishing his transit card out of his wallet. As they found seats near the middle, he noticed Beatrice Cameron sitting near the front, his gloves still on her hands. She was staring down at them like she had never seen work gloves before. He thought that would be the end of it. A random act of kindness, the kind that made you feel good for about 5 minutes before reality crashed back in. He had bills to pay, a daughter to raise, and a job that barely covered both. But as the bus rumbled toward the city, Isaac caught Beatrice looking back at him more than once. And each time their eyes met, something passed between them that he could not name but definitely felt. The school's early morning program was in a basement room that always smelled faintly of crayons and cleaning supplies. Isaac walked Emma to the door, kneeling down to zip up her coat as far as the broken zipper would allow. You have your lunch, he asked. Emma patted her backpack. Yes, Dad. And you will be good for Miss Patricia? Always am, Emma said with a grin that was missing 2 front teeth. Isaac kissed her forehead. I will pick you up at 5:30. Love you, baby girl. Love you too, Dad. He watched her disappear into the room, waving at the program coordinator before forcing himself to leave. Every morning felt like ripping out a piece of his heart, but he did not have a choice. Single fathers did not get to wallow in their feelings. They had to work. The construction site was in downtown, a high-rise that was slowly taking shape despite the weather. Isaac spent the next 8 hours hauling materials, operating machinery, and trying not to think about how cold his hands were. By lunch, his fingers were stiff and clumsy. By the end of the day, they were raw and aching. You all right, Edwards? His coworker Miguel asked as they were packing up. Fine, Isaac said, flexing his fingers inside his pockets. Miguel raised an eyebrow but did not push. That was the thing about construction work. Everyone had their own problems, and you learn not to pry. Isaac made it back to Emma's school with 5 minutes to spare. She came bounding out with a drawing she had made, all crooked hearts and stick figures. It is us, she explained as they walked to the bus stop. See? That is you, and that is me, and that is our apartment. It is beautiful, Isaac said, and meant it. He would add it to the collection on their refrigerator, which was running out of space but would always have room for one more. They took the bus home, Emma chattering about her day while Isaac listened with half his attention on her and half on the throbbing in his hands. Their apartment was small, a 1-bedroom in a building that had seen better decades, but it was warm and it was theirs. Emma had the bedroom, and Isaac slept on a pull-out couch in the living room. It was not ideal, but it worked. Dinner was pasta with butter and a little bit of Parmesan cheese, because that was what they could afford this week. Emma did not complain. She never did. Sometimes, Isaac wondered if she was too understanding for a 7-year-old, if she had been forced to grow up too fast because of his situation. But then, she would do something purely childish, like making a fort out of the couch cushions after dinner, and he would breathe a little easier. After Emma went to bed, Isaac sat at their tiny kitchen table and sorted through bills. Electric, water, rent, internet because Emma needed it for school, groceries. The numbers did not add up the way they were supposed to, no matter how many times he rearranged them. He was going to be short again this month. He thought about the gloves he had given away that morning. They had cost him $40 2 winters ago, back when he had been in a slightly better financial position. $40 he could not spare now. His hands were going to suffer for that decision, but when he closed his eyes, he saw Beatrice Cameron's face, the genuine gratitude in her expression. The way she had looked at him like he was someone worth looking at, he shook his head, annoyed with himself. She was clearly out of his league in every possible way, and he had more important things to worry about than a pretty woman at a bus stop. The next morning, Isaac wrapped his hands in an extra pair of socks before heading out with Emma. It looked ridiculous, but it was better than nothing. Emma did not comment on it, which meant she had noticed, but was being kind. His daughter was too perceptive sometimes. The bus stop was crowded with the usual morning commuters, everyone hunched against the cold. Isaac scanned the crowd automatically, telling himself he was not looking for anyone in particular. But a small, traitorous part of him deflated when he did not see Beatrice. "Dad, look." Emma tugged on his sleeve. He looked. Beatrice Cameron was walking toward the bus stop, and she was carrying a bag from a coffee shop and wearing his gloves. When she spotted him, her face lit up in a way that made Isaac's heart do something complicated in his chest. "Isaac," she said, approaching them. Her eyes dropped to his hands, wrapped in socks, and her expression changed. "You lied to me." "About what?" he asked, playing dumb. "You said you had another pair." She gestured at his makeshift gloves. "You gave me your only gloves." Isaac shrugged, feeling Emma watching the exchange with interest. "You needed them more than I did." Beatrice seemed at a loss for words, then she held out the coffee shop bag. "I brought you something. It is not much, but I wanted to thank you properly. Coffee and breakfast sandwiches." "I hope you like coffee, and I got hot chocolate for your daughter, if that is all right." Emma's eyes went wide. "Really?" Isaac wanted to refuse, to maintain some kind of pride, but Emma was already reaching for the bag with a hopeful expression. And honestly, he could smell the coffee, and it smelled like heaven. "Thank you," he said, accepting the bag. "You did not have to do that." "I wanted to," Beatrice insisted. "What you did yesterday, giving a stranger your gloves, that is not something people do anymore. At least, not in my experience." Isaac pulled out the sandwiches and hot chocolate, handing the latter to Emma carefully. It was just the right thing to do. Still, Beatrice was looking at him in that way again, like she was trying to figure him out. "I have not been able to stop thinking about you." Isaac nearly choked on his first sip of coffee. Emma giggled beside him, covering her mouth with one mittened hand. Beatrice's cheeks flushed. "That came out wrong. I meant your kindness. It reminded me that good people still exist." "Are you okay?" Isaac asked, because that was a strange thing to say. "You seemed pretty unprepared yesterday. For the weather, I mean." The flush in her cheeks deepened, but this time it seemed like embarrassment. "I had a terrible night, left my apartment without thinking, just needed to get out. I forgot my gloves, my phone died. I could not even call for a car. I know how that sounds, how privileged and ridiculous. But it was genuinely the worst night I have had in a long time, and then you appeared like some kind of guardian angel and gave me your gloves." She laughed, but it sounded sad. "Sorry, I am oversharing with a stranger." "Sometimes strangers are easier to talk to," Isaac said, surprising himself with his own openness. The bus was pulling up to the stop. "I am glad you are okay." They rode the bus in relative silence, though Isaac was aware of Beatrice sitting a few rows behind them this time. Emma kept turning around to smile at her, and each time she did, Beatrice smiled back with genuine warmth. When they reached Emma's school, Isaac walked her to the program like always. As they were saying goodbye, Emma looked up at him with those two wise eyes. "Dad, I think that lady likes you." "She is just being nice," Isaac said, tapping her nose gently. "Being grateful, that is all." "No," Emma insisted with the certainty only children possessed. "She likes you the way Princess Anna likes Kristoff, I can tell." Isaac laughed despite himself. "I think you have been watching too many movies, kiddo. Now go on, have a good day." But as he walked back to the bus stop to catch his connection to the construction site, he could not stop thinking about what Emma had said. Could not stop remembering the way Beatrice had looked at him. The day was brutal. Sub-freezing temperatures, and they were working on the exposed upper floors of the building. Even with the makeshift sock gloves, Isaac's hands were numb and clumsy. Around midday, he dropped a wrench, and it clattered down 3 floors before landing with a distant clang. Edwards. His foreman bellowed. "What the hell is wrong with you today?" "Sorry, boss," Isaac called back, climbing down to retrieve the tool. His hands were shaking, and not just from the cold. If he kept making mistakes, he would lose this job, and he could not afford to lose this job. Miguel found him during the lunch break, sitting with his hands wrapped around a thermos of lukewarm coffee. "What happened to your gloves, man?" Miguel asked, settling down beside him with his own lunch. "Gave them away," Isaac said. "What? Why?" Isaac shrugged. "Someone needed them more." Miguel shook his head, pulling out his own spare gloves from his bag. "You are too nice for your own good, Edwards. Here, take these. They are old, but they are better than socks." "Miguel, I cannot." "You can and you will," Miguel interrupted. "You got a kid depending on you. Cannot do that if you get frostbite and lose your fingers. Just take them." Isaac took the gloves, his throat tight with emotion. "Thanks, man, I will pay you back." "Forget it. Just keep your head on straight, all right? This job is hard enough without trying to be a saint." That evening, Isaac picked up Emma and they rode the bus home like always. Emma fell asleep against his shoulder, exhausted from her day. Isaac watched the city lights blur past the windows and wondered how long he could keep this up. The constant struggle, the penny pinching, the fear that one bad month would send them spiraling into homelessness. He must have dozed off because the bus driver's voice startled him awake. "End of the line, buddy. Wake up." Isaac jerked upright, gently shaking Emma awake. They had missed their stop by 6 blocks. 6 blocks did not sound like much, but it felt like miles when you were carrying a sleepy 7-year-old. "I am sorry, baby," he murmured, hoisting her onto his back. "Daddy messed up." "It is okay," Emma mumbled against his neck. "I like piggyback rides." By the time they reached their apartment, Isaac's back was screaming and Emma was fully asleep again. He put her to bed still in her clothes, too tired to wake her for a proper bedtime routine. Then he collapsed on his pull-out couch and stared at the ceiling. His phone buzzed. A text from his landlord, reminding him that rent was due in 3 days. As if he could forget. Isaac closed his eyes and tried to sleep, but all he could think about was Beatrice Cameron's face and the way his life was falling apart at the seams. The next morning, Beatrice was waiting at the bus stop again. This time, she had a large shopping bag with her, and when she saw Isaac and Emma approaching, she smiled. "Good morning," she said, her voice warm. She was wearing his gloves again, Isaac noticed. "I have something for you." She held out the shopping bag. Isaac peeked inside and felt his stomach drop. New winter gloves, expensive ones from the look of them, and underneath more gloves, smaller ones. For Emma. "I cannot accept these," Isaac said immediately, trying to hand the bag back. Beatrice stepped away, holding her hands up. "Please, you gave me yours. It is only fair." "It is not the same thing," Isaac argued. "These look expensive." "They are just gloves," Beatrice said, but Isaac could hear the lie in her voice. These were not just gloves. These were the kind of gloves that cost what he made in 2 days of work. Emma was pulling on his sleeve. "Dad, she is trying to be nice, like you were nice to her." Isaac looked down at his daughter, then back at Beatrice, who was watching him with an expression that was half hopeful, half pleading. "Please," Beatrice said again, "let me do this for both of you." Isaac's pride warred with his practicality. Pride was a luxury he could not afford. "Okay," he said finally. "Thank you, this is incredibly generous." Beatrice's smile could have lit up the whole city. "You are welcome, and actually I was wondering if I could ask you something." Isaac tensed. Here it came, the catch. There was always a catch. "Can I buy you coffee sometime?" Beatrice asked. "Properly, I mean, not just a hurried thing at a bus stop. I would like to thank you properly, and maybe get to know you better." Emma made a squeaking sound that she tried to cover with a cough. Isaac shot her a look, but she was staring very intently at her shoes. "I do not know," Isaac said slowly. "I have Emma most of the time and I work long hours." "Bring Emma," Beatrice said immediately. "I like her. She has a great smile." Emma beamed up at Beatrice. "I like you too." Isaac felt like he was losing control of the situation. "Why?" he asked bluntly. "Why do you want to have coffee with me? You do not know anything about me." Beatrice's expression became serious. Because in one moment, you showed me more genuine kindness than I have experienced in years, and I want to understand what kind of person does that. What kind of person gives away their only winter gloves to a stranger? She paused. And honestly, I have not stopped thinking about you for 2 days straight, and I am not the kind of person who ignores her instincts. The bus was pulling up. Isaac made a split-second decision that he knew he would probably regret. Okay, he said. Coffee this weekend, maybe? Saturday afternoon. Beatrice's face transformed. Really, that would be perfect. Should we exchange numbers? They swapped phones quickly as people pressed around them to board the bus. Isaac typed in his number, hoping it would not be a mistake. Hoping that this woman who looked like she walked out of a different world would not disappear once she realized exactly how different their lives were. As the bus pulled away, Emma tugged on his new gloves. Dad, you have a date. It is just coffee, Isaac protested. With a pretty lady who likes you, that is a date. Isaac sighed, but he could not stop the small smile from forming on his face. Maybe Emma was right. And maybe, just maybe, that was not a bad thing. The rest of the week passed in a blur of work and single parent duties. Isaac tried not to think too much about Saturday, but it was hard when Beatrice texted him every day. Nothing intrusive, just small messages. A good morning text. A funny picture she saw that reminded her of something Emma had said. A question about what kind of coffee he liked. It was nice. More than nice. It made Isaac feel like someone in the world cared about him as more than just a worker or a parent. Like he was a person with his own wants and needs. On Friday night, as Isaac was helping Emma with her homework, she looked up at him with her serious face. Are you nervous about tomorrow? She asked. A little, Isaac admitted. It has been a long time since I did anything like this. Since Mom, Isaac's chest tightened. Emma's mother was not a topic they discussed often. Sarah had left when Emma was 3, decided that motherhood was not for her, and Isaac had not heard from her in 4 years. He had sole custody, and that was how he wanted it, but it still hurt sometimes. For him, and especially for Emma. Yeah, since you're Mom, he said softly. Emma nodded slowly. Miss Beatrice seems nice, different than Mom. What makes you say that? Mom never looked at you the way Miss Beatrice does, Emma said with a child's brutal honesty, like you are special. Mom always looked at you like you were in the way. Isaac's throat felt tight. When did you get so smart? I have always been smart, Emma said matter-of-factly. You should bring her flowers. Ladies like flowers. Where did you learn that? Movies, Emma said with a shrug. And Miss Patricia talks about her boyfriend sometimes. He brings her flowers. Isaac laughed, pulling Emma into a hug. You know what? You are right. I will bring her flowers. On Saturday, Isaac dropped Emma off at Miguel's apartment. Miguel had a daughter around Emma's age, and they loved playing together. It was a rare treat, having a few hours to himself, and Isaac was determined not to waste it being nervous. But he was nervous. He could not remember the last time he had been on an actual date. He wore his nicest jeans, the ones without holes, and a button-up shirt he usually reserved for job interviews. He bought a small bouquet of flowers from the grocery store, nothing fancy, but they looked cheerful and bright. They had agreed to meet at a coffee shop in a neutral part of town, somewhere between his neighborhood and what he assumed was hers, based on the designer clothes she wore. Isaac arrived 10 minutes early and immediately felt out of place. The coffee shop was trendy, the kind with reclaimed wood and Edison bulbs, where a simple coffee cost $7. He was about to text Beatrice and suggest somewhere else when she walked in. She looked different than she had at the bus stop. Her hair was down, falling in soft waves around her shoulders. She wore jeans and a sweater, casual clothes, but somehow she still looked elegant. When she saw him, her whole face lit up. Isaac, she said, walking over. You are early. So are you, he pointed out, standing awkwardly. He held out the flowers. These are for you. Beatrice took them with a look of pure delight, like he had handed her diamonds instead of grocery store carnations. They are beautiful, thank you. They ordered coffee, Isaac insisting on paying despite Beatrice's protests, and found a table in the corner. For a few minutes, they just sat there, both clearly unsure how to begin. "So," Beatrice said finally, cradling her latte, "tell me about yourself, Isaac Edwards." "Not much to tell," Isaac said with a shrug. "I am 32, I work construction, I have Emma, who is 7 and is the best thing that ever happened to me. That is pretty much it." "That is not it," Beatrice said. "Come on, give me more than that. What do you do for fun? What are your dreams?" "What keeps you up at night?" Isaac laughed, but it came out bitter. "What keeps me up at night is wondering how I am going to pay rent and keep my daughter fed. Dreams are a luxury I cannot afford right now." Beatrice's expression softened. "I am sorry. That was insensitive of me." "No, I am sorry," Isaac said, rubbing his face. "That came out harsher than I meant it. I am just not used to this, talking about myself, having someone ask." "Well, get used to it," Beatrice said gently. "Because I want to know everything." So Isaac talked. He told her about growing up with a single mother who worked 3 jobs to keep him fed and clothed. About getting his high school girlfriend pregnant at 24 and doing the right thing by marrying her, even though neither of them was ready. About Sarah leaving and the custody battle that had drained his savings. About Emma, his bright, beautiful daughter who made every struggle worth it. Beatrice listened to all of it without interrupting, her green eyes focused entirely on him. When he finished, she reached across the table and took his hand. "You are an amazing father," she said. "Emma is lucky to have you." "I am lucky to have her," Isaac corrected. "She is the only thing keeping me going most days." "Can I tell you about me now?" Beatrice asked. "Fair is fair." "Please," Isaac said. He realized he knew almost nothing about this woman, except that she had needed his gloves and she made his heart race in a way he had forgotten was possible. Beatrice took a deep breath. "My full name is Beatrice Cameron. I am 30 years old, and I am wealthy. Very wealthy. My grandfather started a tech company in the 80s that became very successful, and when he died 5 years ago, I inherited a significant portion of it." Isaac felt his stomach sink. Of course she was not just comfortable or well off. She was actually rich. The kind of rich that made him feel like they were living on different planets. "I can see you pulling away," Beatrice said quickly. "Please do not. Yes, I have money, but money does not buy you genuine human connection. It does not buy you real kindness. Do you know what my life is like, Isaac? I am surrounded by people who want something from me. Business connections, money, status. Every person I meet is calculating what I am worth to them." "I am sorry," Isaac said, and meant it. "That night you saw me at the bus stop, I had just found out that my boyfriend of 2 years, who I thought actually loved me, was cheating on me with my assistant. And when I confronted him, he did not even have the decency to look ashamed. He just shrugged and said that was how things worked in our world." Beatrice's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "So I left, walked out without my phone, without my gloves, without thinking. I just needed to get away from that world for a while. And then you appeared and gave me your gloves without asking for anything in return. Do you understand how rare that is?" Isaac squeezed her hand. "Your ex-boyfriend was an idiot." Beatrice laughed, a real laugh this time. "He really was, but he taught me something important. He taught me that the world I live in is not the only world, and maybe I have been looking for love in all the wrong places." They talked for 3 hours. The coffee shop staff changed shifts around them, and still they talked. Beatrice told him about growing up with nannies and boarding schools, about the pressure of maintaining her family's legacy, about how lonely it was at the top. Isaac told her about Emma's tooth falling out during a school play, about the time they had stayed up all night because Emma was convinced there was a monster in her closet, about his dreams of someday owning his own construction company. By the time Isaac checked his phone, it was late afternoon. "I need to pick up Emma," he said reluctantly. "Can I come with you?" Beatrice asked. "I want to see her again." Isaac hesitated. Introducing Beatrice to Emma more formally felt like a big step, but Emma already liked her, and honestly, Isaac did not want this day to end. "Okay," he said. But I have to warn you, Miguel's apartment is nothing fancy. I do not care about fancy, Beatrice said firmly. I care about people. Miguel's apartment was in a building similar to Isaac's, a little rundown but clean. Emma and Miguel's daughter Sophia were building a fort out of blankets in the living room when they arrived. "Dad," Emma called, running over. She stopped short when she saw Beatrice. "Miss Beatrice, you came?" "Hi, Emma," Beatrice said, crouching down to Emma's level. "Your dad and I had coffee, and I wanted to see you before I went home. Is that okay?" "Yes." Emma grabbed Beatrice's hand. "Want to see our fort?" Beatrice looked up at Isaac, who nodded. "Go ahead. I will talk to Miguel for a minute." Isaac watched as Beatrice let Emma drag her over to the blanket fort, kicking off her expensive shoes before crawling inside with the girls. He could hear them giggling, Emma's voice bright and happy. "So that is her," Miguel said, coming up beside Isaac. "The woman you gave your gloves to." "Yeah," Isaac said. "She is way out of your league, man." "I know. But she looks at you like you hung the moon," Miguel continued. "And Emma likes her. That is what matters, right?" "Right," Isaac agreed, but his mind was spinning. This was moving too fast. Beatrice lived in a different world. What future could they possibly have? As if sensing his thoughts, Beatrice emerged from the fort and walked over to him. Her hair was mussed, and there was a smile on her face that made her look younger, lighter. "Emma invited me to have dinner with you two," she said. "If that is all right." "I told her I would have to ask you first." Isaac glanced at Emma, who was watching them hopefully from the fort entrance. "Okay," he said, throwing caution to the wind, "but I should warn you, I am not a great cook." "I do not care," Beatrice said. "I just want to spend more time with you." "With both of you." They said goodbye to Miguel and Sophia, Emma chattering the whole walk back to their apartment about her day. Isaac felt self-conscious as he unlocked the door to their small apartment, seeing it through Beatrice's eyes. The worn furniture, the peeling paint, the refrigerator covered in Emma's drawings, but Beatrice did not look horrified. She looked around with genuine interest, walking over to study the drawings. "These are wonderful," she said. "Emma, you are quite the artist." "That one is me and Dad at the park," Emma explained, pointing. "And that one is our apartment, and that one is a dragon." "I can definitely see the dragon," Beatrice said seriously. Isaac made spaghetti with marinara sauce and a bagged salad, apologizing for the simple meal. Beatrice helped set the table, moving around their tiny kitchen like she belonged there. They ate together, Emma telling Beatrice about her school and her friends, Beatrice listening like it was the most important conversation in the world. After dinner, Emma started yawning. It was past her usual bedtime, and the day had been long. "Time for bed, kiddo," Isaac said. "But Miss Beatrice is here," Emma protested. "I will be here again," Beatrice promised. "If your dad says it is okay, maybe I can come visit another time." Emma looked at Isaac with pleading eyes. He could never resist that look. "We will see," he said, which Emma correctly interpreted as a yes. She hugged Beatrice goodnight, then let Isaac tuck her into bed. When Isaac returned to the living room, Beatrice was looking at a photo on the shelf. It was from Emma's 5th birthday, just the two of them with a homemade cake. "You really do have a beautiful life," Beatrice said quietly. "Despite everything, you have Emma and you have love. That is more than a lot of people have." "It is not much," Isaac said. "It is everything," Beatrice corrected. She turned to face him. "Isaac, I know this is fast. I know we barely know each other, but I have not felt this way about anyone in a long time, maybe ever, and I do not want to let you go." Isaac's heart was pounding. "Beatrice, I need to be honest with you. I cannot give you the life you are used to. I am barely keeping my head above water financially. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment and sleep on a couch. I work a job that could fire me at any moment. I do not know what kind of future I can offer anyone, let alone someone like you." Beatrice crossed the room until she was standing right in front of him. "I do not want you to give me anything. I do not need your money or your status. I have those things, and trust me, they are overrated. What I need is someone real, someone genuine, Someone who looks at their daughter the way you look at Emma, like she is your entire world. Someone who would give their only gloves to a stranger in the cold. She reached up and touched his face gently. I need you, Isaac Edwards, if you will have me. Isaac felt like he was standing at the edge of a cliff, about to jump. Every practical part of his brain was screaming at him to slow down, to think this through, to protect himself and Emma from inevitable heartbreak. But there was another part, the part that had been lonely for so long, that wanted to leap. I need to think about Emma, he said. She comes first, always. As she should, Beatrice agreed. I would never ask you to put me before your daughter, but maybe there is room in both your lives for me. Maybe I could be an addition, not a replacement or a distraction. She already likes you, Isaac admitted, and I like her, I like both of you, Beatrice smiled. So what do you say, can we try this? Take it slow, see where it goes. Isaac thought about Emma's face when she saw Beatrice. Thought about how right it had felt, having Beatrice at their dinner table. Thought about the way his chest felt warm whenever she smiled. Okay, he said. Let us try. Beatrice's smile was radiant. She leaned in slowly, giving him time to pull away if he wanted. But Isaac did not want to pull away. He met her halfway, and their lips touched in a kiss that was soft and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, Beatrice was laughing quietly. What? Isaac asked. I am kissing you in your apartment while your daughter sleeps in the next room. My mother would be scandalized. Should I apologize? Isaac asked, only half joking. Absolutely not, Beatrice said, kissing him again. This is perfect. You are perfect. I am far from perfect, Isaac said, but he was smiling. Beatrice left around 10, and Isaac walked her down to the street to wait for her car. A sleek black sedan pulled up within minutes, and Isaac realized that this was her normal. Private drivers, cars that cost more than he would make in 5 years. I will call you tomorrow, Beatrice promised. Looking forward to it, Isaac said. He watched the car drive away, then trudged back up to his apartment. Emma was fast asleep, snoring softly in her bed. Isaac stood in her doorway for a long moment, watching her chest rise and fall. I hope I am making the right choice, baby girl, he whispered. But deep down, in a place he had forgotten existed, Isaac felt something he had not felt in years. He felt hopeful. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Beatrice called every day, texted constantly, and they found time to see each other whenever Isaac's schedule allowed. Sometimes Beatrice would meet him and Emma at the park. Sometimes she would show up at the bus stop in the morning with coffee and breakfast. Once, she surprised them by bringing lunch to the construction site, much to Miguel's amusement and his coworkers' shock. Your girlfriend is something else, Miguel said, as they ate expensive sandwiches from a deli Isaac had never heard of. She is not my girlfriend, Isaac protested automatically. Man, you are dating her, she brings you lunch, she hangs out with your kid. What else does she need to do to qualify as your girlfriend? Isaac did not have a good answer to that. The truth was, he was afraid to label it. Afraid that putting a name to whatever this was would make it real, and real things could break your heart. But Beatrice was persistent. She integrated herself into their lives so smoothly that Isaac sometimes forgot there had been a time before her. She learned Emma's schedule and her favorite foods. She remembered the names of Emma's friends and asked about them. She showed up to Emma's school play and cheered louder than anyone, even though Emma only had 3 lines. It was after the play that Isaac realized how serious this was getting. They had gone out for ice cream, the 3 of them, and Emma had accidentally called Beatrice Mom. The silence that followed was deafening. Emma's face turned bright red, and she immediately started apologizing. I am sorry. I did not mean to. I know you are not my mom. I am sorry. But Beatrice just pulled Emma into a hug. Hey, it is okay. I am not upset. I am actually honored that you think of me that way. Really? Emma's voice was muffled against Beatrice's shoulder. Really, Beatrice confirmed. She looked at Isaac over Emma's head, and there were tears in her eyes. Happy tears. That night, after Emma was in bed, Isaac and Beatrice sat on the couch in his apartment. She had been staying later and later these days, and Isaac was not complaining. About what Emma said, Isaac began. I loved it, Beatrice interrupted. I know it was an accident, I know she did not mean to. But Isaac, I have fallen in love with her. And I have fallen in love with you, and if you think it is too fast, I understand, but I needed you to know. Isaac's heart felt like it might burst out of his chest. You love me. I love you, Beatrice confirmed. I love how you are with Emma. I love how hard you work. I love your terrible jokes and the way you always put Emma first. I love that you gave me your gloves without thinking twice about it. I love everything about you. I love you too, Isaac said, and the words came out easier than he expected. I have been trying not to, if I am being honest, trying to protect myself, but I cannot help it. You have become part of our lives, and I do not want to imagine them without you anymore. They kissed, deeper this time, full of emotion and promise. When they broke apart, Beatrice was grinning. So are you going to officially ask me to be your girlfriend, or do I have to do everything around here? Isaac laughed. Beatrice Cameron, will you be my girlfriend? I thought you would never ask, Beatrice said, kissing him again. Things were not all perfect, of course. There were complications that came with dating someone from such a different world. Beatrice wanted to help financially, to make Isaac's life easier, but Isaac's pride would not let him accept more than small gestures. It led to their first real fight about 2 months into the relationship. Beatrice had arranged for a contractor to fix up Isaac's apartment while they were out one day. Everything from fixing the broken windows to replacing the old appliances. Isaac came home to find his apartment transformed and was furious. You had no right, he said, his voice cold in a way Beatrice had never heard. This is my home, mine and Emma's. I was trying to help, Beatrice protested. The windows were drafty and your refrigerator was barely working. I just wanted to make things better for you. Better for me or better for you? Isaac shot back. So you do not have to feel embarrassed bringing your rich friends around? Beatrice recoiled like he had slapped her. I do not have rich friends, and I have never been embarrassed by you or your home. Ever. Emma was watching from the doorway of her bedroom, her eyes wide and scared. That broke through Isaac's anger. Emma, go to your room for a minute, he said, more gently. Emma disappeared, and Isaac ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. I am sorry, he said. That was unfair. But Beatrice, you cannot just do things like this without asking me. I know you mean well, but this is my responsibility. I need to be able to provide for my daughter. And you do, Beatrice said. You provide love and stability and everything that matters. Why won't you let me help with the rest? I have resources that are just sitting there. Why is it wrong to want to share them with the people I love? Because I do not want you to think I am with you for your money, Isaac said quietly. I do not want Emma to grow up thinking that money solves everything. And honestly, I do not want to feel like I am being bought. Beatrice's eyes filled with tears. Is that really what you think, that I am trying to buy you? No, Isaac said, pulling her into his arms. No, I know that is not what this is. I am just scared. Scared that you will realize you do not need this, that I am too much work, that our lives are too complicated. And I am scared that I am falling so hard for you that, when you leave, it will destroy me, destroy Emma. I am not leaving, Beatrice said fiercely. I am here, Isaac. I am all in. But you have to let me in fully. That means letting me help sometimes. It does not make you less of a man or less of a father. It just makes us partners. They talked for hours after that, really talked, about boundaries and expectations and how to navigate their different worlds. It was not easy, and they did not solve everything, but they came out stronger. Winter turned to spring, and their relationship deepened. Beatrice met some of Isaac's friends from work, and while it was awkward at first, everyone could see how much she loved him. Isaac met some of Beatrice's business associates, which was even more awkward, but Beatrice handled it with grace, making it clear that Isaac was important to her. Emma thrived with Beatrice in her life. Her grades improved, her confidence grew, and she started talking about the future with an optimism that broke Isaac's heart in the best way. One Saturday afternoon, About 6 months into their relationship, Beatrice took Isaac and Emma to her house. She had been hesitant to show them, worried about the wealth disparity, but Isaac insisted. If they were going to make this work, they needed to understand all parts of each other's lives. The house was massive, a modern mansion in the hills with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city. Emma's eyes went wide as they drove through the security gate. "You live here?" she breathed. "I do," Beatrice said, "but honestly, it is too big for just me. It gets lonely." They spent the day there, Emma exploring the house with wonder while Isaac tried not to feel intimidated. Beatrice had a home theater, a pool, a game room that made Emma squeal with delight. But Isaac noticed that despite all the luxury, the house felt empty. There were no personal touches, no warmth. It was beautiful but cold. "It is just a house," Beatrice said quietly, finding Isaac standing in the massive living room. "It has never felt like a home, not the way your apartment does." "My apartment that you renovated," Isaac said with a small smile. "Okay, yes, I renovated it," Beatrice admitted. "But it was a home before that, because you and Emma are there. That is what makes a place a home. The people in it." Isaac pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. "I love you, you know that?" "I know," Beatrice said, "and I love you, both of you, so much that sometimes it scares me." "Me too," Isaac admitted. That evening, as they were preparing to leave, Emma asked a question that had clearly been on her mind all day. "Miss Beatrice, if you and Dad got married, would we live here?" Isaac nearly choked on his water. Beatrice just smiled. "Well, I would want to live wherever you and your dad were happiest," she said. "Whether that is my house, your apartment, or somewhere completely new, what matters is that we would be together." "I would like that," Emma said seriously. "Being together." In the car on the way home, Emma fell asleep in the backseat. Beatrice was driving, and Isaac watched the city lights blur past. "She has a point, you know," Beatrice said quietly. "About the marriage thing, not that I am proposing or anything, I just mean, I have thought about it. About a future with you and Emma. Is that crazy? If it is, then I am crazy too," Isaac said. "Because I have thought about it, a lot, but Beatrice, marriage is a big step, and with Emma involved, I need to be sure, need to know that this is forever." "I understand," Beatrice said. "And I am not rushing you. I just wanted you to know that when you are ready, whenever that is, my answer will be yes." Isaac reached over and took her hand, threading their fingers together. Summer came, and with it, new challenges. Isaac's construction company got a big contract, which meant longer hours and more time away from Emma. Beatrice stepped up without being asked, picking Emma up from school, helping with homework, making sure she was fed and happy. Isaac was grateful but also guilty, feeling like he was failing as a father. "You are not failing," Beatrice told him one night when he came home exhausted to find her and Emma playing a board game. "You are working hard to provide for your daughter. There is no shame in that. And I love spending time with Emma. She is amazing." "You are amazing," Isaac said, collapsing on the couch beside them. "I do not know what I did to deserve you. You gave me your gloves," Beatrice said simply, "and you showed me what real kindness looks like." The big contract meant more money, which meant Isaac could finally breathe a little easier financially. He started putting money away in savings for the first time in years. He bought Emma new clothes that were not from thrift stores. He took Beatrice on real dates, not just coffee at diners. But the long hours took their toll. Isaac was exhausted all the time, running on coffee and sheer determination. One day at work, he made a mistake. A big one. He miscalculated a measurement, and it led to a structural issue that cost the company thousands to fix. His foreman called him into the office, and Isaac knew what was coming. "Edwards, you are a good worker," the foreman said, "but you have been making too many mistakes lately. I am going to have to let you go." Isaac felt the bottom drop out of his world. "Please, I have a daughter." "I will do better, I promise." "I am sorry," the foreman said, and he actually looked sorry, "but I cannot risk it. Here is your last check. Good luck." Isaac left the construction site in a daze. He sat in his truck for 20 minutes trying to figure out how to tell Emma, how to tell Beatrice, how to admit that he had failed. When he finally drove to pick up Emma from Beatrice's house, where she had been spending the afternoon, he must have looked terrible because Beatrice took one look at his face and sent Emma to play in another room. "What happened?" she asked. "I got fired," Isaac said, and saying it out loud made it real. "I messed up and they let me go." Beatrice was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Okay, we will figure this out." "We?" Isaac asked. "Yes, we," Beatrice said firmly. "You are not alone in this, Isaac. You have me. Let me help." "I cannot ask you to support me," Isaac protested. "That is not fair to you." "You are not asking. I am offering," Beatrice corrected. "And it is not about supporting you. It is about being partners. Remember what we talked about letting me in fully." Isaac wanted to argue, but he was so tired of struggling, tired of fighting, tired of trying to do everything on his own. "Okay," he said. "Help me." Beatrice pulled him into a hug, and Isaac let himself lean on her for the first time, really lean on her, and it felt good. Over the next few weeks, Beatrice helped Isaac figure out his next steps. She connected him with people in the construction industry who were looking for experienced workers. She helped him update his resume. She even offered to fund his dream of starting his own construction company, but Isaac was not ready for that yet. He found a new job within a month at a smaller company that paid about the same but had better hours and a more supportive environment. It was not perfect, but it was good. And more importantly, it gave him time with Emma and Beatrice. As fall approached, marking nearly a year since that cold morning at the bus stop, Isaac realized that his life had completely transformed. He had a job he did not hate. He had money in savings. Emma was happy and thriving. And he had Beatrice, who had become as essential to him as breathing. One evening, after Emma was in bed, Isaac pulled out a small box he had been hiding for weeks. Inside was a ring. Not an expensive one, he could not afford that yet, but it was beautiful and meaningful. "Beatrice," he said, his heart pounding. "I know we have not been together that long. I know there is still a lot we are figuring out, but I also know that I have never been more sure of anything in my life. You are my partner, my best friend, the love of my life. And I want to spend the rest of my life proving to you every day that you made the right choice when you fell for a guy who gave you his gloves." He got down on one knee, and Beatrice's hands flew to her mouth. "Will you marry me?" Isaac asked. "Yes," Beatrice said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, absolutely yes." Isaac slipped the ring on her finger, and it fit perfectly. They kissed, and it felt like coming home, they told Emma the next morning. She screamed so loud that Isaac worried the neighbors would call the police. But it was a happy scream, and she hugged them both so tight that Isaac thought his ribs might crack. "Does this mean Beatrice will be my mom?" Emma asked. Beatrice looked at Isaac, and he nodded. "If you want me to be," Beatrice said. "I would be honored to be your mom, Emma. Though I could never replace your birth mother, I can promise to love you and take care of you for the rest of my life." "I want you to be my mom," Emma said. "I have wanted it for a long time." They got married 3 months later in a small ceremony with just close friends and family. Isaac wore a suit that Beatrice bought him, and he did not even argue about it. Emma was the flower girl, beaming in her fancy dress. Miguel was Isaac's best man, giving a speech about second chances and gloves that had everyone laughing and crying. Beatrice had wanted a big wedding, but Isaac had convinced her that small was better, more intimate, more real, and looking at her face as they said their vows, he knew she agreed. "I promise to love you in the cold and the warmth," Isaac said, his voice thick with emotion. "To give you my gloves whenever you need them, to build a life with you that is full of love and laughter and family. I promise to see you for who you really are," Beatrice said, "to never take your kindness for granted, to be your partner in every sense of the word, and to remind you every day that you are the best thing that ever happened to me." They kissed, and everyone cheered, but Isaac barely heard it. All he could see was Beatrice, his wife, smiling at him like he had hung the stars. They moved into a new house, something between Beatrice's mansion and Isaac's apartment, a real family home with a yard for Emma to play in and enough space for all of them. Isaac insisted on paying half the mortgage, using his savings and his steady income. It took some negotiating, but Beatrice finally agreed, understanding how important it was for Isaac to contribute. Life settled into a new normal. Emma started calling Beatrice Mom full-time, and it never stopped making Beatrice tear up a little. Isaac's construction company gave him a promotion, recognizing his skills and work ethic. Beatrice continued running her family business, but she made sure to be home for dinner every night. About a year after the wedding, Beatrice brought up the subject of more children. "I know Emma is your priority," she said carefully, "and I love her so much, but I have been thinking about having a baby, our baby. How would you feel about that?" Isaac pulled her close. "I would love that. I would love to have a child with you, to watch you be a mother from the very beginning." They started trying, and 3 months later, Beatrice was pregnant. Emma was over the moon at the idea of being a big sister. She helped pick out baby names and insisted on decorating the nursery herself, which resulted in a room covered in rainbows and unicorns. The pregnancy was not easy. Beatrice had terrible morning sickness, and there were complications toward the end that required bed rest. Isaac took time off work to take care of her and Emma, and for once, he did not feel guilty about it. This was his family, and they needed him. Their son was born on a snowy January morning, exactly 2 years after Isaac had given Beatrice his gloves at that bus stop. They named him Oliver, and he had Beatrice's green eyes and Isaac's dark hair. Emma held her baby brother with the utmost care, her eyes wide with wonder. "He is perfect," she whispered. "Our family is perfect." Isaac looked at his wife, exhausted and beautiful in her hospital bed, holding their newborn son. He looked at Emma, his first baby who had grown so much, and he felt a gratitude so profound it almost hurt. "Yes," he agreed. "Our family is perfect." Life was not without challenges after Oliver was born. Sleepless nights, the chaos of juggling a newborn and an older child, the constant worry that came with parenting. But they faced it together, Isaac and Beatrice, partners in every sense of the word. Isaac started his own construction company 2 years after Oliver was born, finally ready to take that leap. Beatrice helped with the startup costs, and this time, Isaac accepted without argument. They were building something together, he realized. Not just a business or a family, but a life. The company was small at first, just Isaac and a couple of workers. But it grew steadily, built on Isaac's reputation for quality work and fair prices. He hired Miguel as his first full employee, and they worked together to create something they could both be proud of. Emma thrived in middle school, a confident young woman who loved art and basketball. Oliver was a wild toddler, full of energy and mischief, keeping everyone on their toes. And Isaac and Beatrice fell more in love with each passing year, their bond strengthening through every challenge and triumph. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Beatrice surprised Isaac with a gift. It was a framed photo of them from that first morning at the bus stop, though Isaac had no idea who had taken it. "Miguel took it," Beatrice explained at his confused look. "I asked him to help me track it down. I wanted you to remember where we started." Isaac looked at the photo. There he was, handing his gloves to a cold, lost woman, and there was Beatrice, taking them with an expression of shock and gratitude. "I could never forget," Isaac said. "That was the day my life changed." "The day you came into it." "The day you saved me," Beatrice corrected, "in more ways than one." "We saved each other," Isaac said, pulling her close. "We still are, every day." They kissed, a sweet kiss full of history and promise, while Emma made gagging noises from the kitchen and Oliver toddled over demanding attention. "This is my life," Isaac thought, looking around at his beautiful, chaotic, perfect family. "This is everything I ever wanted and never knew I needed." Years continued to pass, each one bringing new adventures and challenges. Emma graduated high school with honors and decided to study architecture, inspired by watching her father build things her whole life. Oliver turned out to have Beatrice's head for business and Isaac's work ethic, a combination that would take him far. Isaac's construction company grew into one of the most respected in the city. He never forgot where he came from, though, and he made a point of hiring people who were struggling, who needed a second chance. He paid fair wages and offered good benefits, remembering what it was like to choose between heating and food. Beatrice scaled back her involvement in the family business, choosing to focus more on philanthropy. She started a foundation that helped single parents, providing resources and support that could make the difference between sinking and swimming. It was her way of honoring Isaac's struggle and helping others who walked the same path. On the 10-year anniversary of that day at the bus stop, they took Emma and Oliver back to that exact spot. It had not changed much, still the same concrete and metal structure, still filled with people trying to get to work. "This is where I met your dad," Beatrice told the kids. "On the coldest morning of my life, and he gave me his gloves." "Just his gloves?" Oliver asked. He was 8 now, all wild curls and endless questions. "Well, yes," Isaac said, "but also hope, and a reminder that good people still exist in the world." "That is really romantic," Emma said. She was 17, applying to colleges, growing into an amazing young woman, like a fairy tale. "It is better than a fairy tale," Beatrice said, "because it is real. We had struggles and fights and hard times, but we also had love, and we chose each other every single day." They stood there as a family, watching the morning commuters rush past, everyone focused on their own lives and problems. Isaac wondered if any of them knew that they were standing in a place where magic had happened, where a simple act of kindness had changed 2 lives forever. That evening, after the kids were in bed, Isaac and Beatrice sat in their living room, looking through old photos. There were pictures from every stage of their relationship, from those early awkward dates to their wedding to the births of their children. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had not given me your gloves that day?" Beatrice asked. "All the time," Isaac admitted. "I wonder if we would have met some other way, or if we would have just passed each other by, 2 people living in different worlds." "I like to think we would have found each other eventually," Beatrice said. "That some things are meant to be." "Maybe," Isaac agreed, "but I am glad it happened the way it did. I am glad I gave you those gloves. Even though your hands were cold for months afterward," Beatrice teased. "Even then," Isaac said, "because it brought you into my life, and Emma's life, and led to Oliver, it led to everything good I have." Beatrice kissed him softly. "You know what the best part is? We still have so much life ahead of us. So many more years to love each other and watch our kids grow and build our dreams." "That is the best part," Isaac agreed. They sat there together, comfortable in the silence that comes from years of partnership, and Isaac reflected on the journey that had brought them here. He had been a struggling single father, barely keeping his head above water, convinced that his life would always be hard. And then a stranger needed his gloves, and everything changed. Not because Beatrice had money, although that had certainly helped ease some practical concerns, but because she saw him. Really saw him, past the worn clothes and the exhaustion and the struggle. She saw the man who would give his only gloves to someone who needed them more. She saw the father who put his daughter first always. She saw the person he was, not the circumstances he was in. And in return, Isaac had seen past Beatrice's wealth and polish to the lonely woman underneath. The woman who had been hurt and used and was desperately seeking genuine connection. The woman who wanted to be loved for who she was, not what she had. They had found each other in the cold, and they had built a warmth that would last a lifetime. Emma came down the stairs, unable to sleep, finding her parents cuddled on the couch. "Can I join?" she asked. "Always," Isaac said, making room. Emma squeezed between them, and for a moment, Isaac was transported back to when she was 7, small enough to fit easily on his lap. Now she was nearly grown, but she would always be his baby girl. I have been thinking, Emma said. For my college application essay, I want to write about the gloves. The gloves? Beatrice asked. Yeah. About how Dad giving you his gloves changed all our lives. About how one small act of kindness can ripple out in ways you never expect. About how love can find you in the most unexpected places, even a bus stop on the coldest day of the year. Isaac felt his throat tighten with emotion. I think that is a beautiful idea, Emma. It is our family story, Emma said simply, and I am proud of it. I am proud of both of you and the life you built together. We are proud of you too, sweetheart, Beatrice said. So incredibly proud. They sat there together, the three of them, and Isaac thought about how much had changed since that cold morning. He was no longer a struggling single father, barely making ends meet. He was a successful business owner, a husband, a father of two. He had a home filled with love and laughter. He had everything he had ever dreamed of and more, but he was still the same man who had given away his gloves. That was important to remember. Success had not changed his core values, had not made him forget where he came from. He still believed in kindness, in helping people who needed it, in doing the right thing even when it was hard. And Beatrice had not changed either, not in the ways that mattered. She was still the woman who had been grateful for a simple act of kindness, who had chosen to build a life with a man who had nothing to offer but himself. The money had always been secondary to who they were as people. Oliver appeared at the top of the stairs, rubbing his eyes. Why is everyone up? He asked sleepily. Come here, buddy, Isaac said, and Oliver stumbled down the stairs and climbed onto his lap. Now they were all together, the whole family, piled on one couch in their comfortable home. This was what mattered, Isaac thought. Not the house or the cars or the bank account. These people, this love. Dad, Oliver said, yawning. Tell us the glove story again. It had become Oliver's favorite bedtime story, the tale of how his parents met. Isaac had told it dozens of times, but he never got tired of it. It was the coldest morning of the year, Isaac began, as he always did. And I was at the bus stop with Emma, who was 7 years old and freezing despite all the layers I had put on her. As he told the story, embellishing some parts, staying true to others, Isaac watched Beatrice's face. She was smiling, that soft smile that was just for him. Her hand found his, their fingers intertwining automatically, a gesture so familiar it was like breathing. And then what happened? Oliver asked, even though he knew the answer. Then I saw a woman who needed help, Isaac continued. And I did what my mother taught me to do. I helped her. I gave her my gloves. And she was beautiful, Emma added, because this was how the story went. She was beautiful, Isaac agreed, looking at Beatrice. But more than that, she was kind and real. And she saw me, really saw me, in a way no one else ever had. And then they fell in love, Oliver said with satisfaction. And then we fell in love, Beatrice confirmed. And now here we are, one big, happy family. The best family, Emma said. The very best, Isaac agreed. Eventually, they all went to bed, the kids trudging upstairs while Isaac and Beatrice locked up the house. They moved through their nighttime routine with the ease of long practice, brushing teeth and checking locks and setting alarms. In bed, Beatrice curled up against Isaac's side, her head on his chest. I love you, she whispered. I loved you at that bus stop, even though I did not know it yet. I loved you when you gave me your gloves. I loved you when you bought me grocery store flowers. I loved you when you proposed. I love you now, and I will love you for the rest of my life. I love you too, Isaac said, kissing the top of her head. You are my everything, Beatrice. You and Emma and Oliver, you are my whole world. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, secure in their love and their life together. And if you had told Isaac, that cold morning 10 years ago, that giving away his gloves would lead to this, he would not have believed you. Would not have dared to hope that happiness like this was possible for someone like him, but it was possible. It was real. And it was theirs. The next morning, Isaac woke up early, as he always did. He got out of bed carefully, trying not to wake Beatrice, and padded downstairs to make coffee. As he stood in the kitchen, watching the sun rise over their yard, he thought about all the mornings that had led to this one. All the mornings he had struggled to get Emma ready on time, to make it to work despite having no gloves, to keep going when giving up seemed easier. All the mornings he had worried about money and the future and whether he was doing right by his daughter. Those mornings seemed far away now, like they had happened to a different person. But they were part of his story, part of what had made him who he was. And he would not trade them because they had led him here, to this kitchen in this house with this family. Beatrice appeared in the doorway, wearing one of his old work shirts and sleek, rumpled hair. "Good morning," she said, coming over to kiss him. "Good morning, beautiful," Isaac replied. "What are you thinking about?" Beatrice asked, pouring herself a cup of coffee. "Just how lucky I am," Isaac said. "How one decision, one moment of kindness changed everything." "It was not luck," Beatrice said. "It was you. You are a good man, Isaac Edwards. You always have been." The gloves were just proof of what was already there. "Maybe," Isaac said. "But you saw it. You saw past everything else and you saw me. That was the real gift." Emma and Oliver came downstairs, arguing about something trivial, and the peaceful morning gave way to cheerful chaos. Breakfast to make, lunches to pack, kids to get ready for school. It was ordinary and wonderful, and Isaac would not trade it for anything. As he drove Emma to school, she turned to him with a serious expression. "Dad, do you think I will find what you and Mom have?" "Someone who sees me the way you two see each other." Isaac thought carefully before answering. "I think if you stay true to yourself, if you are kind and real and genuine, then yes, you will find someone who sees you and loves you for exactly who you are. It might not happen at a bus stop and it might not involve gloves, but it will happen." "I hope so," Emma said softly. "I know so," Isaac replied, "because you are an amazing person, Emma, just like your mom, and anyone who does not see that does not deserve you." Emma smiled, and Isaac saw Beatrice in that smile, saw his own features mixed with hers, and felt a surge of love so strong it almost overwhelmed him. This was his daughter, who he had raised from infancy, who he had struggled to provide for, who he had loved with every fiber of his being. And she was turning into an incredible human being. After dropping Emma off, Isaac headed to his construction office. It was a modest building, nothing fancy, but it was his. The company that he had built from nothing, with Beatrice's help and his own hard work. Miguel was already there, reviewing the day's schedule. "Morning, boss," Miguel said. "Big day ahead. That downtown project is moving into the final phase." "Let us do it right," Isaac said. "Our reputation depends on quality work." As they worked throughout the day, Isaac thought about how different his life was from 5 years ago or 10. How he had gone from barely surviving to truly thriving. But he also remembered to stay grateful, to never take it for granted, to always remember where he came from. That evening, the whole family had dinner together, as they did every night they could. It was a rule Beatrice and Isaac had established early on. Family dinner was sacred. No phones, no work, just time together. "How was everyone's day?" Beatrice asked, serving pasta that she had actually cooked herself, something that still amazed Isaac sometimes. They went around the table, each person sharing their highs and lows. Emma talked about a test she aced. Oliver complained about a kid at school who was mean. Isaac discussed a tricky construction problem they had solved. Beatrice mentioned a foundation project that was coming together beautifully. These were the moments that mattered, Isaac thought. Not the grand gestures or the big events, but these quiet family dinners where they connected and shared their lives with each other. After dinner, while Isaac was helping Oliver with homework, his phone rang. It was an unknown number, but something made him answer. "Hello, is this Isaac Edwards?" A woman's voice asked. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Jennifer Martinez. I am a reporter with the City Times. I am doing a story on acts of kindness and their impact, and your name came up. I heard about how you gave your gloves to a stranger at a bus stop, and how that stranger turned out to be Beatrice Cameron, the millionaire heiress." Is that true? Isaac tensed. They had kept their story relatively private, sharing it with friends and family, but not broadcasting it to the world. Who told you about this? He asked. I would rather not say, but I have verified the facts through multiple sources. I would love to interview you and Mrs. Edwards for the piece. It is a beautiful story, and I think it would inspire a lot of people. Isaac looked at Beatrice, who had come to see who was calling. He mouthed reporter and saw her expression change. Can I call you back? Isaac asked. I need to discuss this with my wife. Of course, Jennifer said, leaving her number. After hanging up, Isaac and Beatrice looked at each other. What do you think? Isaac asked. I think our story is ours, Beatrice said slowly. But I also think that maybe it could help people. Remind them that kindness matters, that love can find you in unexpected places, that class and wealth do not define who you are as a person. You want to do it. I want to do whatever you are comfortable with, Beatrice said. This is your story too. Isaac thought about Emma's college essay, about Oliver asking for the glove story every night, about all the times their story had brought smiles to people's faces. Okay, he decided. Let us do it. But on our terms, we tell the story we want to tell the way we want to tell it. They called Jennifer back and arranged an interview for the following week. When the article came out, it was titled The Gloves That Changed Everything, a Modern Love Story. The article was beautiful and touching, capturing the essence of their story without being sensational. It talked about Isaac's struggles as a single father, about Beatrice's loneliness despite her wealth, about the chance encounter that changed both their lives. It emphasized the themes of kindness, genuine connection, and looking beyond surface appearances. The response was overwhelming. The article went viral, shared thousands of times on social media. Isaac's construction company got calls from people wanting to hire him. Beatrice's foundation received donations and volunteer applications. And most touchingly, they received hundreds of letters from people sharing their own stories of kindness and unexpected love. One letter in particular stood out. It was from a single mother in a situation similar to what Isaac's had been, thanking him for showing her that there was hope, that life could get better, that one moment could change everything. This is why we did it, Beatrice said, holding the letter, because our story is not just ours. It belongs to everyone who has struggled, everyone who has been kind, everyone who has hoped for something better. Isaac pulled her close, looking at the pile of letters on their kitchen table. I never imagined that giving you my gloves would lead to all of this. That is the thing about kindness, Beatrice said. You never know where it will lead, but it always leads somewhere good. Years continued to pass, each one adding new chapters to their story. Emma graduated from college and started her own architecture firm, specializing in affordable housing for low-income families. Oliver followed his parents into the family businesses, splitting his time between Isaac's construction company and Beatrice's foundation. Isaac and Beatrice grew old together, their love deepening with each passing year. They had grandchildren eventually, Emma's 3 kids and Oliver's 2, and the house that had once seemed too big was always full of noise and laughter. On their 25th wedding anniversary, they returned to that bus stop one more time. It had been renovated since that cold morning so long ago, now featuring a heated shelter and digital displays. But the essence was the same people waiting to get somewhere, focused on their own lives. Do you remember? Isaac asked, taking Beatrice's hand. They were both 57 now, gray streaking their hair, but to Isaac, Beatrice was just as beautiful as she had been that first morning. I remember everything, Beatrice said. I remember how cold I was, how lost I felt. How your hands were already covered in gloves, but you took them off anyway. How your daughter watched you with such pride, how you changed my entire life in one simple gesture. You changed mine too, Isaac said. You saw something in me that I did not see in myself. You loved me when I could not offer you anything but myself. You built this life with me. They stood there, holding hands, watching the morning commuters rush past. And Isaac thought about the butterfly effect, about how one choice ripples out in ways you can never predict. If he had not given Beatrice his gloves that morning, where would they be now? Would she still be lonely, surrounded by wealth but starving for genuine connection? Would he still be struggling, working himself to the bone just to barely survive, but he had given her the gloves? And everything else had followed. "Come on," Beatrice said, tugging his hand. "Let us go home. The kids are coming for dinner, and you know Emma gets cranky if we are late to our own party." They drove home together, to the house full of memories and love, to the family they had built together. And as Isaac pulled into the driveway, seeing his children's cars already there, hearing the sounds of his grandchildren playing in the yard, he felt a contentment so complete it was almost overwhelming. This was success, he thought. Not money or status or power, but this. Love and family and a life well lived. A life built on kindness and genuine connection and choosing each other every single day. That evening, surrounded by their family, Isaac stood up to give a toast. 25 years ago, he began, I gave a stranger my gloves at a bus stop. It was the best decision I ever made, because that stranger became my wife, my partner, my best friend. She became Emma's mother and Oliver's mother and the grandmother to these beautiful children running around our yard. She became my everything. He looked at Beatrice, who was wiping tears from her eyes. I have learned a lot in 25 years, Isaac continued. I have learned that kindness matters, that how you treat people when you have nothing to gain says everything about who you are. I have learned that love can find you anywhere, even on the coldest morning at a bus stop. I have learned that what makes a family is not blood or circumstances, but choice. We choose to love each other every day through good times and bad. He raised his glass. To Beatrice, the love of my life. To Emma and Oliver, who make me proud every single day. To all of you, our family, and to the gloves that started it all. Everyone raised their glasses, echoing to the gloves. Later that night, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet again, Isaac and Beatrice lay in bed, holding hands in the darkness. Do you think we have had a good life? Beatrice asked. I think we have had an extraordinary life, Isaac replied, and it is not over yet. We still have more years ahead of us, more memories to make, more grandchildren to spoil. I hope so, Beatrice said, because I am not done loving you yet. I am not sure I will ever be done. Good, Isaac said, pulling her close, because I have got a lot more love to give you. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, just like they had for 25 years. And if you had asked either of them if they would change anything about their story, they would have said no. Not the struggles, not the challenges, not even the cold morning that had brought them together, because every moment, good and bad, had led them here. To this bed, in this house, with this family. To a love story that had started with a pair of gloves and had grown into something beautiful and lasting. And that, Isaac thought as he drifted off to sleep, was more than enough. It was everything.